This is Ida Spider. I'm going to make a coconut cream pie. And for the ingredients, we need 1 cup sugar, 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, 1 12-ounce can of evaporated milk, 1 12-ounce can of water, 3 egg yolks, 6 egg whites for meringue. That's a total of 6 eggs, 1 teaspoon vanilla, and Baker's Angel flaked coconut. I always take my pie crust out of the refrigerator so they can become room temperature because they're easier to prick, and you have to do that in the bottom of the crust and on the sides of the crust in order to keep it from fluffing up into a mound. And once you put it in the oven, if it does mound up, you just stick the fork in the mound and it'll let the air out and it'll be perfect. The next thing I do is preheat the oven to 400 degrees and put when it becomes 400 degrees, I put the pie crust in and cook them for about 15 minutes. Ordinarily that works, but I like to keep a careful eye on them to see that they are not too brown or brown enough, or cooked like I want them. So I'm going to be pricking the pie shells. It's about right. They're pricking pretty good, you know. And then they go in the oven. So now I'm going to prepare the custard part of the pie. 1 cup of sugar, 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, 'Mix it up. Three egg yolks. See, I pour it back and forth, and then it makes it come out easier. Every little bit helps. Stir that in. It's 3 egg yolks. Then this is the way I do my can of milk. Stir in the milk. A little at a time. Then I fill the can with water. Pour that in. Now I'm ready to put it on the stove at medium heat and cook the custard till it's bubbling. Now if you want to make a chocolate pie, use the same custard recipe, but add 3 tablespoons, heaping tablespoons of cocoa. And be sure there are 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, so it won't be runny. Checking. And it's going real fast. You need to stir it consistently to keep it from sticking to the bottom of the pan. Remember, the pie shells are going to have to go back in the oven once the meringue is on top, so they'll be cooking some more. I've spent many an hour stirring custards. When you put the custard mix on the fire, it takes a while for it to heat up. But once it gets hot, it'll start to thicken pretty rapidly, so you need to really stay on it then and be sure it doesn't stick. The custard is so smooth that you can't tell the difference. You can feel the drag of the spoon as to whether it's thickening or not, but it's so smooth you can't tell by just looking at it. Okay, I think the pie shells are ready now. They're not too brown. We're waiting for it to start bubbling, and then that's when we set it off the fire. Because as it cools, it'll thicken. It's beginning to bubble. see it's beginning to bubble. And that's when you take it off the fire. I'm still stirring it because it's still heat there. Don't want it to stick. When I make banana pudding, I make the same custard recipe except on the pie I put 4 tablespoons of cornstarch because it needs to be firmer. When you cut the pie, you don't want it to be runny. It will thicken up. I'll let this cool while I'm preparing the egg whites for the meringue. I'll be using the egg beater to beat the egg whites, and I will add 3 more egg whites to the first 3. And the egg yolks will go in a separate dish, and they can be used to increase your omelets or your scrambled eggs or whatever. And I find that egg whites whip better when they're room temperature. They're more fluffy. You don't want any part of the yellow to get in with your egg whites. That impedes your whites from whipping good. I add 3 tablespoons of sugar for each egg white. So we had 6 egg whites, and 3 of them 6 is 18 tablespoons of sugar. I start with the egg beater, and at first I'm on low. whites are stiff, you start adding a little sugar at a time, and then now I add a teaspoon of vanilla to the custard. Stir that good. It's still hot, but it's thickened some. Then I take the coconut, I do not mix it with the custard because I don't like a whole lot of coconut. So I sprinkle some on the bottom of the crust. Then I pour some of the custard over the coconut. About that much, about half. Then I put some more coconut. Then I add the rest of the custard. I never make a custard but what I think of RM. He always liked to lick the pot. Now I put on the meringue. You notice I put meringue on the onto the edges. Edges of the pie crust. That keeps it from browning too much. So the crust are already brown a little bit. You don't want it to get black. There are things you can buy to cover the crust to keep it from getting too brown. But I haven't done that yet. And then I take some more coconut and sprinkle on top. Not a whole lot. Then I put them back in the oven to bake the meringue. I watch them carefully to be sure they're cooked. The meringue is cooked, but not too much. See, the tips of the meringue are getting to brown. Take a little while yet. Checking the pies again. They're getting there. Slow but sure. They can turn off the oven and just let them stay a minute. Turn off the oven, but let them stay just a little longer because they might be a little more brown than you really want, but once they're out of the oven, that brown will lighten up a little. That's something I've learned. Okay. Looks okay. And that's how I make coconut cream pie.